Well, hello everybody. This is Carrie with Beyond the Accent, or rather Beyond the Accent with Carrie, right? This is how it goes. And I've got a guest today from all the way down in France. She's over the pond, she's on the other side, and I'm really excited to be seeing her and hearing her. The name's Alex, and she's a colleague, and I like to think of her as a friend. Hope the feeling's mutual. Alex, hello. What's up?
Hello, hello. What's up? It's wonderful to speak in this context. I feel like through the beautiful world of the internet, you can meet amazing people who have similar interests and similar missions, and that's our case. So it's awesome.
Yes, absolute. So then, could you tell us all a bit about what is it that you do? How come you're in France? I mean, you don't sound like you're French, not really. So what's the story there? Maybe you can sort of introduce, tell us all how come I wanted to see you on my podcast. I'll also tell them all, but if you could also introduce that bit.
Sure, I will do my best. I usually do this presentation part in French. So we'll see how rusty I am in English. We'll talk about the different languages in any case, of course. But sometimes when you speak about a specific topic in a language, you can be totally at ease. But even if it's your home language, maternal language that you're speaking in, if it's a different topic, then you can get all mixed up. So yes, I'm Alex. I am the founder, co-founder actually of Peasy Anglais. So peasy, like easy peasy from the expression. And then anglais it's the word for English in French. So that all started with COVID. I was a teacher in France and I wanted to do things differently. I saw a lot of French speakers were completely stuck. This is where I have both languages going in my head right now since I'm really
I love that. I want to talk about
that. French folks are often stuck with speaking and expressing themselves. That was the problem that I set out to resolve when I created Peasy English. And yeah, now it's an online school. This is important information that could be interesting. It's now a relatively large online school for French speakers learning English. We've taught now close to 6,000 French speakers. We're a team of almost 40 people working on the project and on the mission.
I didn't know you guys started out during COVID. I had no idea. That is so cool. Okay, so you're like,
baby.
yes, that's what you are. Okay. Oh, I love that. All right. So you just mentioned how there were two languages, like two tracks sort of playing in your head. There was French on one side and English on the other, and they were kind of playing at the same time. So if you could talk to me for like a minute about this feeling. So how often do you find yourself in that place where, you know, you've got to talk in English and it's just not Englishing because French is like, knock, knock, now I'm here. Could you do what you're supposed to do and talk in the language that you spend most of your days talking in? So what does that feel like? How do you navigate that? When did it start for you? Because it's not like it was like that always, you know, it's always been the case. So tell me more about that.
Yes. When did the disease take hold? It's not a disease. When did the English stop Englishing? Yeah. So I am. I'm from Oregon. First of all, I've spent about a third of my life in the U.S. And now I've spent about a third of my life in France. That's the most recent third. The first third was actually in Saudi Arabia in a British international school.
What? Wait, what?
Which is probably where the whole being interested in languages and cultures started. But yeah, it was really in high school that I started learning French. When did it start becoming a big part of my life? It was already in high school when I really started self-imposing a kind of environment of assimilation and exposure to a lot of French just because I loved it. It was pretty easy because of my love for the language. When I was in a space where it was just French, to specifically keep out the English, to really lean into the French and learn it even better and explore how much I can do with French and what happens when I get stuck and when I look for words, etc., etc. There were a couple weeks period where it was zero English whatsoever, even though I wasn't necessarily completely fluent in French yet. But I came out of those 2 weeks and I felt incapable of a lot of things in English afterwards because it's really different knowing how to speak separately in two languages and knowing how to switch. Those are different skills, absolutely. The being able to switch is a thing. That's why translation also is its own like we love these subjects so we can talk a long time about it, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's a whole skill
It's an art
that I
form, yeah, and it is.
yeah developed.
There's a whole skill set to it for sure. And the kind of interpreters that do the interpreting at the UN and whatnot, and it all happens in real time. I don't think they are. Do they, do they live up to like 80 or 90? Because I don't think it's very, I don't think it's good for you to do that much switching throughout your lifetime. I think it's nerve-wracking. It's crazy what it does to you. But like you said, it's a skill. So
Mhm.
you do learn to regulate and it's a navigation, right? And I think it also depends on how many systems there are to begin with. So if there's two, it's one thing. If there's more than two, then I suppose it's a lot more work. Um, but
I
then,
imagine. I
yeah,
only have French and English, so I am, way under the level a lot of Europeans
right.
or a lot of other people around. But yeah, I can't imagine. Sure.
Absolute. But then again, it's when you're born into those environments, right? You've got one might say that a bilingual, trilingual, quadrilingual, whatever, academics will still refer to that individual as bilingual just to make our lives easier as, um scientist and whatnot, which I was when I was getting my master's for 2 years, glorious years, where I was pretending to be someone who was, a scientist, which I'm not anymore. But it was easier to say bilingual, even for people who spoke seven languages. And what happens is you're never a perfectly balanced quadrilingual, let's say, right? It's always like there's a certain portion of skills. Like you talk to your grandma in this language, you read in this one primarily, you do all the rest in this one, and then there's like a fourth one that there's certain affiliations, but it's like you don't really rely on it for a whole lot, but it's almost like a reflex. You go there for certain sentiments, like there's certain words that you need in this particular language, right? And those switches are almost automatic, right? But
Mhm.
if you are, say, a translator or interpreter, it's like you got to be like 100% in all four, and then I don't know, then good luck to you. What can I say? That it's a whole separate story, and you learn those as opposed to kind of acquire them more or less organically. So, but you know what? I've never even met such a person. The UN folk that I'm referring to, it's a fantasy. So, whatever. It's mostly people who are just living their unbalanced bilingual lives, and that is so much more interesting and so much more relatable. And I think this is you and I. And I wanted to rather ask you this whole feeling where French is no longer just a language, whatever that is, just a language, but like it's something that you live in, something that you live. When did when did it start to feel that way? When did it become part of your life? That is so integral that, okay, well, this is it. Like English is sort of second, and this is the language that I operate in. This is what I do every day. This is what I wake up to.
Mhm. Yeah, I'd say it happened in a few different steps. First bigger-ish period of my life, at least 50% in French, was during a study abroad when I was in college, and I just loved the experience so much and how much I learned about myself. Constant out of comfort zone, but mostly self-imposed, so it was okay.
I love the
Um,
self-imposed thing. It's just like, you know what? I chose that for myself. It didn't choose
I
me, right? I wanted that. Yes.
yes. I mean, I really, really like learning. Used to be, well, I still am quite a timid person who felt really limited, especially with speaking to different people. And I
Hmm.
wanted to be able to do more with my life than just be afraid of everything. So that's where the self-imposing of getting out of the comfort
Hmm.
zone started happening. And it became a positive thing for me. So that's why this is coming back. And so, yeah, that was the first period of my life. And then finished college in the US. And I was like, I want more of that. And I am not ready to be an adult in the US. And so I was able to start as a teaching assistant in France. And then I was able to figure out a visa situation that has evolved into my current situation. So it was 2016 when I moved to France, like for real. I have consistently made the choice to stay here, and now I'm too afraid to be an adult in the U.S.
Okay. That is so that's okay. That's so interesting. No, thank you. Adulting in the US. You guys do that on your own. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. All right. Why not? Hang on. So I
Why not the adulting in the U.S.?
well, why would you not? Well, first of all, you know, you're already settled where you are. I get it. But would you say
Mhm.
that there's something about the US experience that kind of, you know, you're like, no, you know what? No, I'm going to steer clear. That's not for me.
It's not, it's not too much of an intentional choice. It's not a major no way kind of thing. I really, really love being in the US when I am back. And I
Yeah.
do say I'm back because I do feel really at home still, weirdly, in the US, even though, like, what is this word home? Yeah, I'm very clearly American. I'm very clearly not French. I feel at home in the US. Moving I was 23 at the time. I know how to go to the doctor and to not worry about medical expenses. I know how that works. I know how cars and renting work. I don't know all of those things. I would just have to discover. They work well for me here. And so I'm not against figuring that out in the US. So identity wise, I definitely am still pulled to the US, but I'm also here for a reason, here in France for a reason.
Once I contacted you, one of the premises for this episode was this article that I'd read, which I had sent it to you weeks back. It was a New Yorker article, and it was something like "Learning to Love" in French, something something, and it was by a lady who was originally American, I believe, a New Yorker. Her husband was a French speaker, and she was basically sharing her experience of being with someone whose first language was French and whose second language was English, and how she was learning French and how they were, you know, what the texture, rather multiple textures within that relationship were because of the languages that they were sharing and not sharing at times. And I really wanted to kind of get into that because I got to meet you live. What was it? June or July? It was
June,
June,
yes.
right? And your partner, you're such a cute couple, and I was like, and I saw you talking to one another, and you were talking to me, and I was like, oh, I like this. I want to know more about this, and I've got questions for you. Do you personally, do you feel like you become a kind of a different version of Alex, you know, when you speak in French as opposed to English? And you know, does your being around your partner, you know, affect that version depending on what language she's speaking? You know, what would you say about that?
Versions of myself in the beginning, I felt like I was a, can I say a bitchier version of myself
Ooh, I love that. In French, of
in
course.
French. I don't know
Okay.
how much it's internalized stereotypes or anything like that, but Very clearly, obviously, language and this is maybe not a path that I want to go too much down, but language and culture, you can't keep them separate. In the American culture, it's really important to like it's difficult to say no in comparison. Like I didn't realize this before, but it's
Mm.
difficult to give a negative opinion without backing it up. Like
Uh-huh.
it's not like for me I learn about culture by learning what shocks me, and there were a lot of things that shocked me in the beginning and that I realized that we're different can just come out in terms of what are the most common expressions and phrases that you hear a lot in the language, and that's very related to culture, is going to be super vague unless I give some examples. Like the thing that would shock me would be like watching a movie with, maybe this is different in New York, who knows,
Tell me,
but
tell me, tell me.
watching a movie with friends, French friends, coming out of the movie and them just having no hesitation, no problem, kind of trashing the movie from my American perspective. But actually, from the French perspective, it's more like dissecting it and criticizing it and analyzing it. But for me, it was weird in the beginning. I realized that there is like I have like a layer of like positivity cushion
Hmm.
I purposely keep. So that's what made me maybe feel like I was a little bit bitchier in French, other than the expressions like that
Yeah.
sometimes I specifically don't use because I don't want that to impact my personality too much. Like I don't want to be the person. Something that annoys me in French is I don't want to be trashing French.
No, no,
Is
no, no. Wait,
because
wait.
I love
What?
it.
Well, no. Come on. Let's do. Well, I think they would do that. They're like, okay, well, there's this portion, there's this expression, and this is what it does. But it's true. It's like it's sacred. That's true. But the expression, right? So it's got a
I have
story to it, right? So yeah.
Yeah, it's a topic that I have trouble with, so I'm, you're sharing my heart here.
Mm, yeah.
But there's something that you might hear a lot, but it's especially with the older generations, it's like c'est pas possible, c'est impossible,
Hmm.
and that really annoys me.
Really?
Like this is completely impossible, and they don't use it for talking about something that actually is not possible. It's talking about something that they don't like.
Except
Like it's
right.
clearly possible. It's exactly what is happening in front of you, but it's you don't you don't like it, and so it's just not possible. It's not acceptable. It's not
It's like
tolerable.
insufferable. Yeah. So it's like no way. Like this is like I want it out of existence, right? So it's just like you shouldn't exist. That sort of
And
thing.
there's just the fact that in English, and especially in American English, like we use the word awesome, and it's super amazing and it's great and it's wonderful. And I think that impacts our way of seeing things. Like it's not, for me at least, it's completely not superficial to say that I love you, you are amazing. But never would you say that in French. It would seem superficial or like mocking.
Hmm.
It's just a different way of expressing super positive things. You say them with more neutral words, or using opposites of negatives. Like, oh, that is not terrible at all, but that's actually a really positive thing to say.
C'est pas terrible. How is it? Wait, teach me.
um,
Right. So it's pas mal, right? It's, well, first of all, not
yeah,
bad, right?
c'est pas mal du tout ça. It's
Uh,
like not bad at, well, we have that in French, in English too.
yeah, yeah.
Terrible is terrible is, it's like its own expression on it,
That's
so
true.
that doesn't work as much. But probably since I grew up with the American culture and mindset, that's where I'm feeling myself as a little bit bitchy in French, even though I'm not bitchy in French at all. That's just my internal
Right.
bias and struggle. That is very clearly a struggle, as
Hmm.
you can hear.
Huh.
But related more to the question of language and love and this intimacy thing, Obviously, French took on another level considering that I acquired a partner who is still my
Yes.
partner relatively early on in my time in France. And yes, so that is a huge part of my language and identity. Being an adult also means being able to talk about your emotions and having adult relationships. I don't know how to really talk about my emotions in English.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to do that. If I am were to speak to someone who could equally understand French and English, and I were to have a serious conversation with them or share something intimate about myself or talk about my problems, absolutely I would choose French. I'm so much more comfortable, and it's because I've had all of these difficult conversations and figured out how to speak about who I am and my emotions
Mm.
and my needs in French so much more than in English.
Absolutely. Makes total sense, right? So that's what I always think of as domains, right? So there's this emotional stuff, vulnerability, something that I would say like in a shrink's office, right? And I personally have had, like the therapy stuff, most of it I've done in English. So, um, and well, it figures that I'd rather talk about this stuff in English and not in Russian. And if I speak about it in Russian, I'm going to like contaminate my speech with all those English words because
Hmm.
it's going to be a mix because those are the terms and concepts that I rely on. So it's like that's what my brain has been taught. So like, what do you want from me? It's that's just how it goes. So then well then if I may ask, so then whenever you are talking to someone who's not a French speaker about, profound emotional stuff. Um, do you find yourself struggling to find the words? Are you just sitting there like, shit, I wish you spoke French? Like, do you find yourself thinking that or not?
Yeah, I mean, in the first place, I have never considered myself much of an eloquent speaker.
No, come on.
Someone who, in general, can have difficulty finding their words, even without the mix, then absolutely, yes. I know a lot about searching for words in in English on a lot of topics. Hmm.
Okay, so it's just like that's just how it is. That's how my brain is, right? It's like, there's so many words. Where do I go? So,
Hmm.
give it a second. I know, I can relate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's at least, maybe you have other techniques for getting through that a little bit more fluidly, but I, as a language lover and
Yeah.
teacher, one of the techniques that I share is to de-stress by sharing what you're going through. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble finding my words right now. I'm trying to describe this thing. Just speak it out, and that is typically what helps you get to your destination and de-stress as well.
Oh
So
my
that's
God,
what I try to do.
100%. Oh my God, I'm like 1,000% on board with that. It's because it's just like it's a barrier, and you kind of step over it once you say that it's there, and it kind of invites the listener in. Like, you know what? Help me out here. Like I am. It's a bit of a struggle right now for whatever reason, and I don't want you to be, like it's not like that I want you to be part of it, but I want you to be part of this conversation. So if you would just, be aware, please, that this is what's happening, and it changes it. It shifts 100% if they are a
Mhm.
decent human being, that is, which is like the case most of the time. So great. So absolutely. Also breathe. That always helps a little bit, but it's so hard too. Oh, you know what? And getting grounded, like being like, okay, my feet, there's stuff that they stand on. Okay. Ooh, right. The environment. Okay. Oh, there's walls. Oh, there's a sky. Oh, it's blue. Oh, what can I smell? Oh, flowers, or no, it stinks, right? Or what can I hear? Someone's honking, or, there's a cat meowing or something. It's just like it kind of helps you that hyper focus on you looking for the words, you just sort of move it elsewhere. And that also helps you de-stress. So that's
Mhm.
another thing that's really helpful. But sharing, I think, is the way to go about it. So yes, yes, yes. Alrighty, alrighty, alrighty.
The funny story is that I didn't hear my partner speak English until he met my parents. That was what.
Are you kidding me? That is so he wouldn't do that. Yeah.
He was so afraid because I was an English teacher and I was going to judge him and I was going to correct him all of the time. You know, all those mental blockages that I'm trying to help people get over. Yes, I heard this thing from another couple. I think it was like American and Japanese at one point. It was never have your partner be your teacher. I have no idea if this is a good piece of advice or not. But in any case, for that couple's case, it didn't work. And for us, it didn't necessarily work either.
Okay.
Being in a relationship and having a teacher relationship is different and not necessarily natural. So he was able to get over his fear of speaking English, especially since he was forced to in order to communicate with people while we were in the US. And then it has since blossomed into this, you know, we have our own communication now. He now has a great level in English since he watches so many videos in English, et cetera, et cetera. In the beginning, I didn't want to speak to him in English either because it wouldn't be natural for me because I would need to change my English for it to be understood. So that's why I never had this thing like, when you're angry, don't you go into your mother tongue? Like, no. When I'm angry, I want I want my message to be very clearly heard.
Mm-hmm.
Any emotion, it's absolutely French.
Yeah.
But now, since he spends so much of his time partially in English too, it's this weird mix where I work half in English, half in French. We mix like crazy, and I love being able to mix like crazy.
Absolutely. Right. So it's evolved into like but it's like a third language, right? It's like a third space. It's no longer just one or the other. And I love that. And it's like it gets even more intimate because it's like it's your language, right? So and that I had a very specific question about that, right? So like is there you've got this, very particular bilingual bubble, and I was wondering if you had some, words that you guys had invented that only you two used with each other, or some concepts that you've got just for the two of you. And you did say something about mixing quoi and what and making it into, so was it quat? Is that what it
Yeah,
is?
yes, it's the unintentional mixes that are the best, where you're thinking in French and then someone says something in English and it switches like in the middle of the word sometimes, or vice versa. So yeah,
Mhm.
my favorite surprise mix was the quat.
That's so cool.
What what is happening? What are you doing?
I can't though.
Because it's the same in both languages, like the what and the quoi.
Yes.
It's the same context, so
Mhm.
they they mix together very well.
It carries the same energy, 100%, right? And it's like it's the fusion, and it's phonetically very similar as well, right? So it's like
Hmm.
why not mix them? It's just like it's almost like they wanted to be a mix, right? I love
Hmm.
that. Okay, okay. So this is so interesting. So it started off different. So he wouldn't talk in front of you. And this is so human. I so understand that. Um yeah, and it is true about partners, about it being problematic, one being the teacher. And I think it's psychological, right? It's about the power dynamic. It's like one somehow, it's not that the teacher is superior necessarily, but again, as a student, you do think of them as superior. And it messes things up a little bit. I don't know. It's just like it's hard to manage outside of the actual teaching and learning. It I don't like it. I don't like it. I've
I
never
imagine you
liked it.
have some specific experience with that.
Yeah, no, yeah, I don't like it because with my, but it's also because my husband's very, like we are very similar in terms of how we are. Like we've got similar personalities in terms of wanting to kind of um, not be told, not wanting to be told what to do.
Hmm.
So, and he he stays the same throughout the course of whatever it is we're doing as teacher and student, and he just can't really like put on that hat, like okay, I'm here to learn and she's here to support me, and he just, I don't know. You know what, maybe that's changed since because that was like years ago, like years and years. And men, they're like little boys, and then they grow up, they become adults at like the age of 43. So maybe something's changed. So I will report back to you people. Okay. I really wanted to talk about this thing where you kind of find yourself in a place where neither of the languages does it for you in a given moment. So, like, there's not a word, not a concept. It's just like, or maybe, first of all, you forget a word. Like, it exists in both languages, but you just cannot think of the word. Or you just, like, I wish there was a concept, but this arsenal that I have, the repertoire that I have, it just doesn't cut it. So I need another language, or I wish we could just create a whole new concept for this and that. Like German, it's got all those lengthy words for whatever sentiment, whatever sensibility. I wish my language could do that. So have you ever found yourself in this twilight zone in between languages? Or is that a weird question to tackle? What do you say?
I mean, absolutely. Like the void, the black hole of
Hmm.
there's nothing to hold on to here kind of thing. Yeah, that's the struggle.
Definitely. And what do you say to yourself when you find yourself there? Like, do you also just kind of, um, just let go? Just like, okay, I'll come back to it later. Do you get frustrated? Do you, because I used to like ask myself, what the heck is happening to me? I used to think that something was wrong with me. Maybe I was, I don't know, getting an early onset, like I was getting Alzheimer's or something. Like I should see someone about this. What is going on? Sometimes I think it's just a stage, and like you said, you just need to learn to switch. So, what do you think?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think it helps me that I spend so much time coaching people to de-stress by doing my job. It reminds me to de-stress to get through the situations because you can, yeah, anytime you're stressing, that doesn't help with cognitive functioning and getting out of whatever the stress
Mhm.
that you're in. So that when I'm having a certain level of consciousness, that's my focus. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. The technique of explaining what is occurring in your brain and doing your best to explain the different concepts because sometimes, well, I think it's also just accepting sometimes that either this language doesn't have that thing or does and you can't find it, or the other language doesn't have that concept. You just don't have it, and and that's like a first step of it, accepting and choosing a path.
Mhm.
Yes,
Yeah, I like that,
but
the acceptance. But
the
but
the
what?
acceptance.
Right.
It's possible that I haven't experienced that as much as you, though, because I've spent a lot of my time feeling like I don't have a good enough level in either language to know even if there is a word. Sometimes I just
Right.
just forget, and it's kind of like, well, too bad. Let's focus on getting through the conversation with whatever means.
Right. So, this is where the next question comes in. So, do you ever find that not having those perfect words, do you think that it kind of creates a new kind of clarity and like an honesty almost? Because when you look for
Mm.
newer words, it's almost like you dig deeper because
Mhm.
when there's a really precise word, well, that's good and all, but it's nice and dandy, but when you explain you better understand what it is that you're trying to say almost. I don't
Oh
know.
my gosh. Absolutely. Especially if you have a word in one language, you're looking for the word in the other language. Sometimes you don't even realize what that first word means. You can't just translate a word because a word actually is the idea and it is the concept. So might as well, it's a really, really cool and helpful and useful fluency skill to be able to recognize that a word is actually more than just the word. It's everything around it and what you mean. Like, what do you mean with this word? So it's so much. That's why I think it's really important to accept and go as quickly as possible to the explaining what you mean. It's like the accuracy versus fluency thing. It's really important to have to work on the fluency scale of explaining what you mean. Like I feel like that's what I spend my whole life doing, trying to explain what I mean because there's probably a word, maybe not, I don't know. But it's actually not super important in this precise context that I have that exact word because maybe that's such a specific word that the person across from you doesn't even know that word. So it's more effective actually even to
Hmm.
explain what you mean on multiple levels.
That's so true. And speaking of levels, right? There's more than words there, right? There's the intonation. There's so many things you can do with your voice, getting across whatever it is that you're trying to say to the other person with the
Mhm,
emotions that,
mhm,
again, you're going to do with the voice.
mhm,
That is something you're going to communicate with the help of your instrument. That is not something that you do with letters and, the meanings behind the letters. It's what you do with the sounds and what, the cohesiveness of the sounds is all about, right? So you're trying to, because what you were just doing, your voice was like all over the place. You were like da 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 da, and you can keep someone so very engaged, and that alone is so much more effective than having I don't know 1,000 words that are 100% it,
mhm,
but it's just too flat, or it just I don't know it falls flat. It is just emotionally um I don't know, not quite present or whatever. I mean, it's always
mhm.
good to have it all, right? But knowing that there's more than one medium and just like kind of being connected with all of the instruments at your disposal, we just get so, I don't know, stuck on the one thing that we don't have at a given moment. And
Yeah.
we just latch on to something that's not there. And it's like, but there's so much other stuff that you got right there, right this second. Just like grab whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder where that comes from. That's got to come from somewhere, almost like a fixation with the importance that we put on vocabulary more than on other ways of expressing yourself. I feel like there's something there, but there is a fixation I think that we have often with having vocabulary. A lot of language learners focus
Mm-hmm.
on that.
Yeah, the smart vocabulary, the
Mhm.
non-basic vocabulary, right? The
Mhm.
advanced vocabulary, the IELTS vocabulary. Well, I think the industry has got a little something to do with it. Just kind of selling it to people. Stop using the basic terminology. Like,
Yeah.
no, I won't stop. Bugger off. There's so
Mhm.
many ways to go about it, and that's not what I'm gonna do. No, there's a time and place for the advanced shit. Like, leave me alone. And it's just so out of place most of the time. It's again the pragmatics and the phonetics is just so much more. It's so much more resourceful. It's just like why not go there instead of being so fixated, like you said, on the one level. Not that
Hmm.
it's unimportant, okay? I don't want to say that, but it's all about the balance, right? So you want to have
Hmm.
a little bit of everything all rolled into one. I'm a bitch, I'm a lover, da da da. And so it goes. Your relationship with French, if it
Hmm.
had a signature phrase that, that that gets across the feeling that you have towards the language, what would it be?
Towards the language, or when I'm in the language,
Hmm.
the expression of the language?
Well, I suppose towards. Okay, it's not the same thing, is it? Right?
The
So,
second one is easier for me to respond to
okay, let's do
respond
the
to.
easier one. Then let us do the latter. Right. So when you're using it, yeah, when you're in the middle
Um,
of being in it, being when you're Frenching.
and actually, I'm not sure it's completely different now that I'm thinking about both.
Okay.
But because of my mission of how I like to help people with their expression and with their confidence, and also because of my values, one of my values is authenticity. Honestly, what does it mean to be human? It means making mistakes. It means it's okay. It means life. Like nothing is perfect. You know, I had a lot of struggles with perfectionism back in the day, and I maybe don't care enough about that anymore. But that's also kind of cool. So if I could have a signature like feeling around and in the language, it's kind of like the word décomplexé, which is
Hmm.
like, yeah, I don't know what that is.
Was that uncomplicated? It's is that a thing? It's just
If
like
you have a complex, it's like you have a complex, you have a like a mental
mm-hmm.
blockage. Like
Mm,
don't
mm.
like unlifting. This is not.
Okay, so it's like liberated in a way. Kind of.
Yeah,
Kind of. Kind of.
it's with this authentic vibe. I want you know, communication is communication. It's not being perfect, and my French is never going to be perfect. Perfect doesn't exist. I
Mm-hmm.
don't. That's not my goal, and I struggle partially with that still. But also, I take pride in the fact that it's okay to not be perfect. When people hear you speaking, they can hear relatively quickly that I'm not French,
Mm-hmm.
but that's authentic. That's who I am,
Right.
and yeah. So I do. I think that actually answers both sides of the question.
Right.
Hopefully.
It does. It does. It does. 100%. Okay. And well, if you were to, I guess that's, I was just gonna ask, what's the piece of advice that you want to, extend, offer to whoever's listening, and I guess that is it, right? So authenticity versus perfectionism. That is basically what you'd sell to your students, and
Absolutely.
yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense, and I'm with you on that. That is part of my ideology. And again, I
Mhm.
also struggled most of my life with perfectionism, and it just so it kills the vibe, man. It's
Mm.
so not what you want to feel. Um
Mhm.
I think it kills, you know, I don't know. It just poisons you and the experience for you and whoever it is that you're talking to. So why do that to yourself? So slowly but surely, gotta let go of that ideology and move on towards what was it? How do you say authenticity in French? Authentic. Is that it? No.
I don't know if it's a noun. Authenticité, probably.
Authenticité. Okay, but I always have
Being
to
authentic.
being
Authentique.
authentique. Alors, wait, okay, so it's just I
Mhm.
always have to like spell it in my, in my head to be
Me
able
too.
to say it. So yeah, and it's always a process and it takes forever. So, and my hair is like we gotta finish. We gotta finish
Uh,
this. We gotta wrap it up.
Authenticity is a yeah. Authenticity is a word. I
It
needed to know
exists.
that.
Yay. Okay.
Yes.
So it's a match again, right? So French and English, they do coincide a lot of the time, which is good given the history. So, good for them, good for us. Well, this has been a pleasure, and this has been very insightful and sweet and vulnerable and fun. It's so fun to talk to you. I want to talk to you for another 3 hours, but I gotta let you go. Such is life. So, c'est la vie. I'll say it that way, which is just so much more apt and appropriate. Is there anything you would, add, yeah, anything you want to say at the very end of this wonderful conversation we just
Mhm.
had? Anything at all? Mm-mm.
Sure. I mean, I could just complete what you're saying about the perfectionism. The
Yes.
question that I like to ask myself is this way of thinking of is this way of doing things or is this way of thinking of things helping me towards where I want to go or not? A
Hmm.
lot of times a lot of people say perfectionism, but it helps you get better, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe sometimes, but if it's not actually perfectionism. But so that's the question I try to answer, ask myself and answer for a lot of things in life. So maybe that can be helpful. But otherwise, yes, a lot of growth and a lot of learning happens when you're curious and when things are positive. So I try to make things as positive as possible for myself as well. And I see that that's and practical, and I see that that's what you do too. So that is so cool, and keep doing what you're doing, and I'll keep doing what I'm doing, and we're gonna keep chugging and along, and it'll
Take
be
on the
great.
world. Yes. There we
Mhm.
go. Right. Absolutely. I love that. I love the sound of that. Right. It doesn't help. I totally agree with you. I mean, again, everyone should decide for themselves and see it for themselves. So, well, thanks for that. That's deep stuff, sister. Okay. Well, you have one for us to the night. Okay. Is it bonne soirée? Okay, I'm working on
That's
my
right.
vowels, okay, and the consonants, all right. And thanks so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. Talk to you guys soon. All right. This was Alex. She's kind of awesome, honestly.